That's what we see Jay-Z has done. That's what we see Puff has done. The music don't become how you pay the bills. It's a lot of pressure off of it. You got other things bringing in income, you can make music.
This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face. Like what the fuck is going on? Who told you that song and did you know all along? And why did your bitch sell that painting 2 weeks after he was gone? I'm gonna tell you what it feels like. It feels a little fishy. Feels like something's going on ever since that John Legend song and college prediction of a Grammy. If you ask me, I can't stand him. Seems a little weird. Question number 1, why is there no blood? Question number 2, Sam left in the AM is true, but you're talking about the shits all up in the afternoon. Don't trip, we're gonna find out the truth soon. Who did what to who? Did they plan to eat the chili fries or was it just a surprise? Can you see the lies of witness in a cowboy's eyes? Are we gonna just sit here and forget? Are we gonna ride like Nip said? It's a little weird that the judge quit. Handing out immunities like candy makes me sick. I got a lot of unanswered questions like, why is the footage all grit and I can't see shit? Who the fuck is that white man in that white BMW? Probably was the FBI. Yeah, I noticed that white guy, and I noticed the car wasn't in the pictures when they showed them afterwards. They thought we would forget. They got that shit backwards. They weren't expecting me to drop this track and raise all these questions with my Mac words. I'm really mobbing through LA smoking backwoods. I've been doing this shit all my life. TMC, AMI. You might just see an empty parking lot when you ride by. Well, me, I see way more. I see an independently owned store. I see the community taking power back, whether you're white, Mexican, Asian, or black. As long as you're not blue. Good ones, there might be a few, but from my life experience, I'm like, fuck that. I'm not defending Eric, but what's the fucking delay? They requested a quick trial, it's been over 800 days. They try to distract us in so many clever, creative ways. Yeah, you got your Grammy, and now you're a billionaire. But what about the families that are still living there? Seems a little unfair, just a little something to compare. I never seen a fireman wearing a bulletproof vest. Yes, the shit to me seems a little suspect. The shit's a little weird. Crisis actors taking away our fathers, making our child some bastards, killing creative men and women for their masters. The waves that Nip wrote in, you didn't know when it began. A bunch of new chapters, you didn't think about what would happen after. We would put the pieces together on your transparent bullshit. I can see right through it, like the clear blue sky in the LA sunny weather, where the palm trees swing side to side and we ride together on a white horse or a double R hearse in a foreign car. Either way, you gotta be on guard because they're on tap for anyone who's brown or black with tats. Everybody sees it, but nobody wants to attack. It's sad if you ask, we all gotta blast back. We're in the game, though we can't touch the ball. Seems a little unfair if you ask me, that's all. So take your ignorant ass to YouTube and type in Tanique Reviews to get the real news. We're doing the shit for justice, not views. Sharing knowledge and coming together, that's the real tool. He tried to lead us to the lake, so don't sleep on the knowledge that he gave to me and you. He wanted us to learn from his mistakes, so with our new knowledge, good decisions we could make. And also one thing I wanted to say myself, they killed Dr. Sebi because he was teaching health. Assassins, they come in all shapes and sizes, big booties, hips and thighs. Oh, you're Diddy's girl, right? Oh yeah, John Legend, some things happen at your video shoot. I got a couple questions for you. All those strings you pulled, you still can't make a rap hit. You punk ass little bitch, you probably got a little dick. All the shit that you have to did. This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face. This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to Tanique Reviews. See, we got Ime on here. Ime is here, alive and well. Good afternoon, Ime. Glad to see you here. And we're doing a semi-tribute to apparently the late, great Bishop Carlton Pearson. You guys know I don't like to jump on the bandwagon behind everybody else and do things. I'd like to start off by saying everything on this show is alleged and used for entertainment, religious, and spiritual purposes. You need to get that out of there. And if you hear people saying that, you know they got that from me. And we got some more people here, but they haven't signed in yet. But we're here to talk about Bishop Pearson and what little bit I know about Bishop Pearson. I was at Azusa, his conference that he held annually. This is 1993. You know, there's so many good things about this guy. And, you know, what he was able to do that is absolutely incredible. You know, So I probably will have difficulty, starting here. Of course, I went to Oral Roberts. He did too. Other people went to Oral Roberts University. But this guy was able to, I believe his church was in Jinx, Oklahoma. I think it's called Jinx. I'm not sure. That's right, Jinx. They would build a successful ministry there in Oklahoma. And what I want to talk about, because I've already done shows on Bishop Pearson and stuff while he was alive. So I'm not a hypocrite doing one now that he's made his transition, because I did him on him while he was alive. And if he had anything to say or could have said about it, he would have said it. Because one thing about him, if you know him, he's quite vocal. That my shows were factual and they were true. And I did it while he was alive and in good health, not when he got ill or what have you. He was in good health when I did my shows. Y'all should remember, I did the story on Bishop Earl Polk, and on Bishop Eddie Long. Bishop Eddie Long came for Earl Polk, and how Bishop Pearson and Bishop McClendon were both at Earl Polk's church. I did Bishop Pearson and all that stuff for y'all back a while ago. So just trying to bring it back to some of y'all memory. But what I want to talk about that I never talked about is what I think actually went wrong with Bishop Pearson. That's right, I say wrong. Now, I'm not saying that Bishop Pearson is wrong because he taught what some call the doctrine of inclusion. All right. He talked about inclusion, the doctrine of inclusion. You can see right here. He called it the gospel of inclusion. All right. Now, before we even go any further with that, let me tell you that Bishop Pearson is not the inventor of this gospel, or this doctrine. It's really a doctrine. It's called the doctrine of inclusion. That's pretty much where you include everybody. It's pretty much that's what it is. I mean, there is the Bible says, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he becomes a new creature. Old things are passed away, and all things becomes new. All right. And so, well, the doctrine of inclusion, in short, is not a new doctrine, because they used to have another doctrine too, and they used to call it once saved, always saved. So that means you come in church, get saved, a crack addict, you leave out the church, you can still be a crack addict, you were still saved. All right. So you can come in church a homosexual and leave out of church a homosexual. That's called once saved, always saved. And if you've been in church any period of time, there ain't nowhere in the world you can tell me you ain't never heard of it. And so, if you were to listen to Bishop Pearson's doctrine of inclusion, it's really a doctrine of exclusion. And what he excluded was hell. That's right, Hell, hell. He excluded hell. And therefore, when you exclude hell, you include everybody else. John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, Adolf Hitler, according to Bishop Pearson, will all go to heaven, regardless of how many people they murdered. You can do whatever you want to do, and you will go to heaven. Now, that's not how he started off, but I want to talk to you about how I think he got there. Because I'm going to tell you something. Many of you can make the same mistake that he made if you suffer from a wounded spirit. Now, let me tell you something. There is a lot of people in church who suffered from a wounded spirit. I think it was the proverbist or the psalmist, I don't have the scripture in front of me, that says, the spirit of a man can sustain, you know, most things, but a wounded spirit can't bear anything. Can't bear anything. Now, in other words, basically, your human spirit was designed to handle certain things. Maybe somebody says you're ugly. You're ugly when you're a kid. Okay, well, your human spirit is designed to kind of power over that. Some people's human spirits can power over those things, but there's sometimes you can get a shotgun blast to the human spirit and you'll never heal. Like if an uncle or a father were to rape you or something of that nature. That's some serious stuff that you could carry with you forever. That's a person who's dealing with a wounded spirit. It's like a hole in a car tire, and you're trying to put air in the tire. Even though you can see it's a blowout, you're still trying to put air in the tire, and all the air doing is coming out the hole, coming out the hole, coming out the hole. And in my personal opinion, I don't care how long you've been in God. I don't care how long you know God. I don't care how much Holy Ghost you got, how many tongues you can talk in or run down the aisle or listen to your favorite singer in the bathtub. That don't mean you can't have a wounded spirit. Some of y'all that's listening to me right now got wounded spirits because your mother died, because your father died. You ain't never got over it. You lying to yourself. Y'all just like Job. Don't make me preach now, unless y'all gonna put some money in the offering. Y'all just like Job. And people tell you that Job didn't complain. I'm like, those idiots must didn't read chapter 9 all the way to chapter 40, where Job complained, and in chapter 40, God finally stopped him from complaining. Job didn't curse God, but he cursed the day he was born. Who gave him life? He did the next best thing he could without cursing God. The man complained because he was going through. So my point, and what I'm basically trying to say, some of you all got divorced, and divorce has given you a wounded spirit. I don't care if you got remarried. You still got a wounded spirit because you thought that was it. I don't know about you, but I grew up wanting to just be married to one person all my life. I heard my parents go to church and testify. They were married for 65 years. I thought that would be my testimony. Life didn't work that way. And sometimes people get divorced and sitting up with a wounded spirit. You're trying to pump them up, pump them up, pump them up, pump them up, pump them up. They meet a new boyfriend, meet a new girlfriend, get married, get a wife, get a husband, and for some reason they still can't inflate. You know why? It's because they're dealing with a wounded spirit. And I don't care what good happened to them. It's just like, again, putting air in a tire with a hole in it. And it don't make a difference what stage in God you in. This is possible. So now that I was a part of Azusa, wasn't a part of the people putting it together, but I attended, got to know a lot of people and stuff like that at the Azusa meetings and stuff like that. And I want to tell you what I believe happened to Bishop Pearson. And all you people in ministry, you probably need to listen to me and shut the hell up. And because I'm going to tell you some things that you don't know, because I got kind of go a long way back in this thing. I was raised in this thing. Now, let me just say this. Most people on my show platform already know that I've been involved with gospel music, secular music, and stuff like that all my life. But I really had a stint in gospel music. Two famous gospel entertainers tried to sexually molest me when I was a kid. That's how advanced I was in playing keyboards. I never thought that would ever happen, but true enough, it really did. But since they dead too, I won't embarrass them on YouTube. They standing before God. They know what they did. My point being, I kind of been around this thing for a long time. I've seen other young men, who I know who are famous to this day actually trade their bungholes just to be on somebody's record and stuff like that. Now, saying that to say this, let me get to my point. Bishop Pearson, God blessed him to go to Oral Roberts and to be with the Oral Roberts singers and stuff like that. And his ministry really grew among white people. That's one of the reasons why he was such a very proper annunciator, a very proper talker, because God blessed him to be among a people that a lot of colored preachers couldn't be around. You go back in the day, black people would get happy when a white preacher came to church, but very few white people invited black people to church, to preachers to preach. Go back and look. Go back to the 80s and go back in the 80s. You won't see a whole lot of black preachers going into white churches. Now you see black people getting happy because a white preacher came into a black church, but you didn't see a lot of black preachers going into white churches. It just didn't happen. And that's what's one of the things that's attributed to Carlton Pearson, because he was able to try and put a bridge there, and black and white people learned they could worship. Now, he's not the founder of that either. Now, I'm going to show you how far back in this thing I go. You would have to go back to the late, great A.A. Allen All right, the late great A. Allen, who actually, I'm gonna call it like this, is the father of black and white worship. If you A. Allen, they lied and said he drank himself to death. A. Allen was killed. And the reason why A. Allen was killed, in my opinion, allegedly, was because A. Allen was warned by people from various organizations that they didn't want colored and white to share the same building worshiping Jesus. People, what I'm telling you is true because you didn't do your worst research. It's not my fault. It's true. A. Allen brought together, in some places, they didn't even want to sell him a building because he had black and white people worshiping together. So God gave him the idea to bring in a tent. And he bought, I think, a 10,000 seat tent. And half of that tent would be filled with white people, and half of that tent would be filled with black people. And they would all be together. They'd all be worshiping and praising God together. And A. Allen was under threat to be killed most of his life because he brought in black and white people to worship together. In fact, a lot of famous people came out of there. One of the most famous people was his choir director, who was black. It was the late, great Gene Martin. Gene Martin directed black and white people that sang music as if they were in a black church. Them white people were singing. Go back and look up these videos. Remember these names, Gene Martin. And he was the choir director for the late, great A. Allen. So they wanted to get A. Allen because A. Allen, again, brought something that in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, they didn't want. They did not want black people and white people in the same church. So A. Allen did that. And a lot of other people tried it over the years. Oral Roberts tried it, and A. Allen was able to do it. And Oral Roberts was a part of A. Allen. And I think R.F.W. Shambach was a part of A. Allen too. These are white preachers who also carried a black following. Now, if you go back to this time, what you really will not find is a black preacher that had thousands of white followers. You won't find that. You won't find that. Trust me. go back go back to the 60s, go back before 1968, most of us were still in slavery. Slavery didn't end to 1968 if you think it ended. I'm not going to get into that either. But go back to back 60s and 70s, you won't find very many black preachers that had thousands of white people following them. Now you'll find white preachers who had black folk following in there because black folk always want to be white and think they white. And they go to white churches and do things white because they want to be accepted among whites and worry about what white folks think about them, which is what's wrong with the black race to this day. They're trying to be white. Take a look at the crime and violence. Well, we weren't the ones doing that. White folks is doing that. Let's go back to the 20s. Al Capone and Bugs Moran, they shooting the hell out of each other. That wasn't black problems. Black folks, we was shining shoes, living good. We was inventing Black Wall Street. We wasn't killing nobody. That was white folks killing each other. Go back to the 30s. White folks, we got what they named Bunny and Clyde, Robin Banks. You didn't see Pete and Charlie. You saw Bunny and Clyde. Money and Clay. Wait. You ain't, what a black bank robbers at? I mean, yeah. I'm not being racist or prejudiced or anything like that. I'm just trying to tell you like it is about it in America. Y'all need to study history real good. While white folks was killing each other and going on, black folks were visiting in places like Rosewood, a place that sold good food and black businesses. They would have been places like Wall Street, and all the crime in America was being committed by white people, Italians, and Irish people from the 20s, 30s. They Tommy guns rolling up. You know why black people are shooting in cars and killing people? Because white people did it first. Shooting in cars, killing people. That's what they did in the 20s and 30s throughout Chicago, 40s and 50s and 60s. And then in the 60s, the civil rights movement started and black people just started to make headway. But that only made white people hate black people even more because they saw black people were trying to become solely independent. Now, I'm not trying to really get y'all, I'm talking about Bishop Pearson, but let me just say this. When the 60s, first of all, this lie that black people didn't do well in slavery is a lie. Y'all need to go back and look at Black Wall Street. You need to go back and look at Rosewood, not the movies, you need to read about it and see how black people did business. The people in Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and they stole our name and put it in New York and called it Wall Street. It was Black Wall Street. Black people in Oklahoma did business with the Soviet Union, with Germany. They did good business, was driving the best cars, the best clothes. We had our own cleaners. We didn't need white people for anything. We had our own black pharmacies. The problem now is y'all don't recognize that. They didn't put black people in Major League Baseball because they wanted to break in Major League Baseball. They put black people in Major League Baseball because white people stopped going to Major League Baseball. They started going to the Negro League to watch the Negroes hit them home runs 500 yards out of the field. And so the guy with the Yankees said, we don't change this, that there ain't gonna be nobody coming to baseball. So as black people, we've always fared, even though we were oppressed, we've always fared sumptuously. Now, somebody put it in black people's mind that they can't fare in the 60s and 70s. And that's why you don't see no black pharmacies. You don't see no legitimate, you got a couple of black businesses, the church and barbecue houses, but man, we had hospitals, we had our own doctors, we had everything, all right, during when we were the most oppressed. So my point being, Oral Roberts came out of A.A. Allen, and so did R.F.W. Shambach came out of A.A. Allen, and those guys saw that black and white people could worship together. But there was still some problems. I see A. Hill, you listen to Bishop, no Bishop Pearson told folk, there's no devil. That's right, we always talked about that. You got to listen. And I see you still listen to Zusa. But what I'm talking about is what I want to focus on is what I believe happened to Bishop Pearson. All right, because a lot of people don't know the inside details on what really may have caused this man's spirit to split. And that's why I say y'all need to listen, because this can happen to a lot of people. And I see a lot of people who have a wounded spirit. You can tell. Ricky Smiley is a perfect example. That's why you do gospel. Ricky Smiley is a wounded spirit all day long in church. That's why all he talk about is church. He's still suffering from some hurt or something he went through in church. And the only way he can relieve it is to get up on stage and make fun of a church. You got 1,000,001 comedians who don't have to mention nothing about God, but Ricky Smiley made a living off making fun of the very thing that probably hurt him. He has a wounded spirit. Now, instead of people, this is what the Bible says, if any among you be spiritual, let them restore unto a person. You see, when a person is really hurt, you're supposed to go to them and restore. Restore unto them. You're not supposed to beat the hell out of them because something didn't go right or something went wrong. You're supposed to restore unto your brother or sister who's fallen. Now, we want to talk about Bishop Pearson. I want to talk about what I personally know about Bishop Pearson. Hey, Danielle, she said she grew up on Bishop Carlton Pearson. Got something you want to say? Feel welcome to talk about it. You see the link in the description box. I want to talk about Bishop Pearson, and I want to talk about what I think happened to Bishop Pearson. Because first off, I also was the organ player at the Jackson Park Memorial Church of God in Christ in San Diego. So before we get started. And so if you know Bishop Pearson, like I know Bishop Pearson, then you know that that's where he came from. And that's where Bishop Blake came from. J.A. Blake, Bishop Blake's father. Yes, I came from back there in California in San Diego. See, he come from San Diego and went to Oklahoma. See, y'all don't know nothing about that. All right, so what I'm saying is I want to show you how a person can suffer from a wounded spirit. And if that spirit isn't attended to, cast out, this is what the Bible says about God. He said, God can create in you a clean heart and renew the right spirit within you. They didn't renew the right spirit in Bishop Pearson because a lot of times most people didn't know what was really going on with Azusa. Now, you just heard Danielle come in and she said she still listened to Bishop Pearson. Danielle, I got to tell you, there was a lot going on with Azusa. This is what Danielle's talking about. That's these good albums with this good church music that they don't sing no more. I am so tired of the church music these people are singing now that when you say the word gospel, I don't even want to hear it. And this is one of the reasons why so many people were disappointed in Bishop Pearson, because he carried the old school and was bringing it into the new when music meant something. You know, it reminded you of your grandmother when your grandmother took you to church and your grandmother testified. Bishop Pearson carried that. And for a minute, we thought it would make the transition. But now this music they singing now ain't nothing but secular music and pop and blues. And the musicians don't even care. They playing Bugs Bunny. And these people are calling themselves dancing and shouting under the spirit now. It's just actually a disgrace. But so you see the picture here. This is Azusa. I don't know which one this is. I forget. And this is I think this is the first Azusa. This is the very first one. And at this Azusa, you're gonna see something amazing. Not just the music, but you're gonna see I think Fred K. Price was at this Azusa here. Rod Parsley, a guy out of Ohio with about 10,000 members, and probably 80% of them are all black, a white preacher with an all black church, just about. See, you won't find that in too many of our community, black people. You won't find too many white people at a black church. You may find one or two, but when have you ever seen a black preacher that had 5,000 white members? That you'll never see. But you'll see plenty of white people. Dr. Charles Stanley carried a huge black following in Atlanta. But you got some preachers who can teach and preach way better than Dr. Stanley did. In Atlanta, they ain't got no white people following them. I wonder why. Something wrong with that whole philosophy. Well, Bishop Pearson was a bridge to that, where it didn't make a difference. All colors, all creeds, all races followed behind him and loved his ministry. If they didn't know the music, they quickly learned the music and learned the spiritual. This is why you see up and down YouTube, TikTok, a lot of people of foreign ethnicity playing black music, and I would give Bishop Pearson credit for that. But so while Bishop Pearson was putting these things together, and God gave him this vision, I always say, be careful when you get too much too quick. Let's see, Danielle says, all ministers was on this platform, Bishop Jakes, Dr. Miles Monroe. That's right. You know what I'm talking about. But I don't want you to go too fast because I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. Because I was a part of this when Bishop Pearson was called by Jan and Paul Crouch to TBN. And I could go into all of that. How Bishop Jakes got started. I remember when Bishop Jakes left North Carolina and moved to Texas and know why he left. Know what happened to the brother or whoever it was who got shot up and he had to get out of West Virginia and go to Texas. I know the whole story. And he happened to get to Texas, and Bishop Pearson played the women's prayer breakfast on TBN, which shot Bishop Jakes to fame. Without Bishop Carlton Pearson, there'd be no TD Jakes. Joyce Myers would still be on the radio, as far as I'm concerned, because if you heard Joyce Myers, she was on the radio. She attended Azusa and then graduated to television. Nobody would know who Rod Parsley is, even though I knew Rod Parsley years ago when he used to be with Dwight Thompson. I think that's his name, Dwight Thompson, Rod Parsley. They were called the Sons of Thunder, but they didn't make any heyday. But after Rod Parsley came to um, Azusa with Bishop Pearson, and he went straight to television, went straight up from that point. And because black people get excited when they see somebody black, when black people get excited when they see somebody white preach, or they want to assume that a white person is sounding black. But white people don't get excited when black people preach. You don't see 10,000 white people following no black man, but you'll find 5,000 black people running behind white folks and white preachers. Let me get to my point. Y'all keep knocking me off. Okay, so Bishop Pearson put all this stuff together, and it was a great work. This is just some of the audience. This is Bishop Jakes, by the way. This is a rare photo that you guys will see. His first appearance at Azusa, where he preached to the women from his manuscript, "Woman, thou art loose." Never told them what they were loose from. And I don't think the doctrine was sound. I didn't think it was sound then. That woman had spinal bifida. It had nothing to do with no man, but he turned it into a broken woman syndrome. And y'all thought anyway, I'm not going into saying about Bishop Jakes. However, this is him actually at uh, Azusa with Bishop Carlton Pearson. This is him actually there. So Bishop Pearson is putting this stuff together and doing a great work. He's mixing Bishop Jakes with Rod Parsley. He's mixing Fred Price. He has, I can't think of the lady's name. I love her. She's out of New York. Uh, they give her a hard time. Jackie McCullough. And he also introduced us to um, Kenneth Copeland. Now, if you really were a Zoozer and you were there when Kenneth Copeland was there, then you should have known that he brought controversy when he came. Him and Jackie McCullough kind of went back and forth. It would be good if they played that particular Zoozer for you to hear Kenneth Copeland and Jackie McCullough. Jackie McCullough got up, and Jackie McCullough is strictly about holiness. If you don't want to hear anything about holiness and being holy, Jackie McCullough is the wrong person for you to invite to your church because she's real with it. So Jackie McCullough came and started telling these people they were nothing but, dressed up in fancy clothes. And she started telling the white people in Oklahoma that they were racist. And boy, she just, had a lot to say about it. And she was letting them know she was real. She can feel their spirits. And then Kenneth uh, Copeland got up, if I remember correctly. Now, my mind is going back, this is way back then, okay? And I think he said after that, he just wanted everybody to know there was nothing wrong with the back of the bus. He was like, Rosa Parks could have went to the back of the bus. The back of the bus is as good as the front of the bus. Where do black people go now when they get on the bus? They go to the back. He was sending a shot at Jackie McCullough. And that's the reason why you don't hear about Jackie McCullough no more, because she was telling the truth. All right. She was telling the truth. She was preaching the truth. A lot of folks are afraid to come to Oklahoma and tell the truth that white folks are prejudiced. They're still prejudiced in Oklahoma. Look at the laws that they passed, that a person now can take a car at 80 miles an hour and crash into a black protesting group. Oklahoma passed that law. So Bishop Pearson is putting all of this stuff together and trying to bring black and white people together. But something's going to happen that I'm aware of, but a lot of people aren't aware of it because they didn't grow up in the old school. Now, let me show you what I mean by the old school. I'm talking the real old school. Do you know really how James Cleveland became famous? James Cleveland, I don't care about his lifestyle, that ain't none of my business. Listen to what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to educate you. James Cleveland probably has well over 300 to 400 songs written. And these songs were written by him. So when you're coming up in the late 60s, early 70s, I want you to understand something. When you guys go to church on Sunday morning and y'all hear Jesus can work it out, and y'all live in various states and y'all choir singing the song, and y'all choir didn't write that song, back in the early 70s, you couldn't do that. And I was playing keyboards then. You couldn't do that. You had to have the writers express it permission to sing their song. Because if you didn't have the writers express permission, most of those writers, gospel and secular, if you used their songs without their permission, if your church was big enough, they turned around and sued your church. That's right. A lot of churches were sued back in the day because their choir sang a song on the radio without the permission of the people who wrote that song. And that is today still copyright infringement. So if anybody at church tell you they ain't sin, if you go to church and you hear somebody sing a Yolanda Adams song and they didn't write it, they lying, they sinning, they breaking the law. If they didn't ask for permission to sing that song and they sing that song, they're breaking the law. That is copyright infringement. If you listening to a Kirk Franklin song and you go to your church and sing it in New York, you sing it in LA and New Mexico, you sing that song, I want you to understand something. That is copyright infringement if you did not get permission to sing that song. Now, years later in the 80s, they would recognize that they need the church to sing those songs because it was advertisement. You advertised it, and people went out and they bought cassette tapes and stuff like that, and that's how some money was being generated. But I want you to understand that in the beginning of that, it was not so. Musicians like me, we had to make songs. We had to take the hymn book and rearrange and make songs because the church didn't want to be sued. So we just couldn't jump out there and grab the number one song and start playing it in church, unless you was at some rinky-dink small storefront church. But if you was at a live church that drew in a lot of people, and that person found out that you sung their song, they sued the church and they usually won. especially if you was trying to have a tape ministry or somebody had a 45 millimeter camera and had it on camera, your church was sued. And in some cases, a lot of money changed hands. Over the course of time, though, you get around to the 80s, that kind of slowed down because what they found out was that if the church ain't singing your song, then your song is not popular. So what churches do on Sunday morning by getting their best singer to sing your favorite song you heard on the radio, they're advertising that song for you. Now, why am I saying that? Because Bishop Pearson brought together 10, 15,000 people to these Azusa conferences. And I started to notice it, but I don't know if a lot of other people notice it. When Bishop Pearson brought these people together, he had what I call two groups of people. He had a group of people that was invited. They were invited to preach. They were invited to sing. They were invited. There was another group of people who was just as famous, and these people were not invited. Oftentimes, they came on their own by busloads. They wasn't invited. And Bishop Pearson was the kind of person who would recognize everybody. So he don't care where you was sitting. I remember I was sitting next to Walter Hawkins one day, and he found out Walter Hawkins was in the audience and just called Walter Hawkins up and had Walter Hawkins sing "Thank You, Lord." Walter was just sitting out in the audience. He was just sitting out with everybody else. And he called him up, and a lot of times at his Azusa, that would happen. I remember one time John P. Key brought a whole bunch of people. I don't know if he was on the invited list or non-invited list, but he showed up, and Bishop Pearson recognized him because he was a world famous singer. So a lot of times he had invited people and he had none invited people. All right, so he's getting ready to go to a level that I don't think he was, even knew he was getting ready to go to. So he got the phone call to TBN because, of course, Oral Roberts is his mentor, and Oral Roberts is good friends with Jan and Paul Crouch. Richard Roberts, good friends with Jan and Paul Crouch. And so I remember the first episode that Bishop Pearson was on. The first episode of TBN that Bishop Pearson was on, he played Bishop T.D. Jakes and Woman Thou Art Loose and loosed Bishop T.D. Jakes to the world. I found that funny. Anyway, that's right. He did. He played Bishop Jakes, the Woman Thou Art Loose, and his Azusa conference just shot up. And that's how he was able to do Azusa 2, because everybody was like, man, if one was like that, then we can't wait to get the 2. And that's how Azusa 2 came along. And there's some controversy. There's a lot of controversy. I'm not going to go too much into the controversy, especially when Donnie McClurkin did the old songs, because the originator, let me just say this, the originator of old songs is Donnie McClurkin. I was at Azusa when Donnie McClurkin done it. But somehow Bishop Pearson put together some old songs, and he got the credit for it. So him and Donnie, that was a little thing between them, because Donnie should have got the credit for that, those songs being put together. In fact, I ain't gonna go into that, but there's a lot of good juice I could give y'all, but I'm not gonna give y'all an inside story. But however, you had remember the invited people and you had the non-invited people. All right. So Bishop Pearson is doing his thing. He is playing them on TBN. They're getting clout. People know who they are. Oh, yeah, you remember R. Thomas? R. Thomas, if you remember, I was sitting right next to Walter Hawkins. That was the second time I met Walter Hawkins in my life, when Bishop Pearson called him up to sing "Thank You, Lord." And he had Donnie McClurkin join him on stage, and Donnie helped him out a bit. But I could go deep into that. I'm not going to even go into that. But anyway, you had the invited people and you had the non-invited people. They were all famous. You had invited preachers, then you had the non-invited preachers. They were all famous. So Bishop Pearson didn't disrespect anybody. He invited them all up, let them all say something. And if they said something he thought would help the body of Christ, he played it on TBN. And see, Danielle says, but he put Donnie on it Ain't nobody know who done it. Leave that alone. I'm gonna give him credit because you know what? I had a good time during that time, man. When I think about that, I'm choking up actually thinking about it because there's so many people who are not here with me in my family who was there. My mom's not here. Several of my sisters have passed. That was such a great time during that time till it's actually hard to even tell you this story because it was a great time. Whole families. This is one of the very few places when it comes to church that I met whole families at restaurants. It wasn't too much in Oklahoma. We had to stay at the Motel 6. They keep the light on for you. No kidding. Yeah, so we had they kept the light on for you. I don't know if y'all can remember Motel 6. They keep the light on for you. So whole families, you know what I mean? When I say whole families, I'm talking like family reunion. Everybody showed up at Azusa. But let's get back to these people. Let's call them the invited people and the non-invited people. These are famous people. The famous singers, some of them were invited and some of them were not invited. They showed up. And famous preachers, some of them were invited, some of them were not invited. But Bishop Pearson never disrespected anybody that needed to be recognized. Everybody got recognized. And I'm not always saying that he was right, because the way he introduced Tremaine Hawkins, my God, I thought she was going to kill him. Tremaine Hawkins, you still singing? How old are you? 75 now? Nah, I'm just kidding. he, he would do some stuff like that. She been singing since I'm a little girl. Well, how old am I? 56? Oh, she got to be 75 or 100 now. But some of that stuff didn't go over well. But y'all know if you attend the Zuzi, you know I'm not lying. He did Tremaine Hawkins like that. And I don't think she ever came back to Azusa after that either. But nevertheless, she had been singing for many years. But nevertheless, the uninvited and the invited is going to be the problem. So Bishop Pearson would decide to put them on TBN with Jan and Paul Krause. Yeah, his personality, he had a weird personality. Some of his jokes, Danielle, was not I don't think it was time. He'd be right in the middle of a song, cracking fun of people's age, cracking fun of people's weight, especially women who were famous. I don't know. I just don't. I don't think I would have did that because that was just. If I can listen, we talking about 40 years later, and I can still remember him talking about Jane Hawkins. You still singing? Woo! She been singing since I was little boy. Woo! I'm 56. How old are you? 95. Like, if you can see the look on Tremaine's face, so I can still see it, then you can see she didn't take to that joke real good. And he did a lot of that. He did a lot of that. He would just be joking around, but I don't know if those jokes went over as well as he thought that they did. But however, non-invited people versus invited people. So what actually happened, and if y'all know TBN, now you got to make sure you understand TBN. And if you want this, you can get this at PO Box Santa Ana 1, Riverside, California. That's where TBN was. PO Box Santa Ana 1, Riverside, California. Okay, so they were selling that stuff for money, and big money. And I'm sure Carlton was getting a cut. But anytime you were going to be on TBN, TBN got all the money, every dime of the money, and then you got a cut of it. Okay, wasn't no coming on TBN and you raising money for yourself, allegedly. That's how it went. They got all the money. So my point being, as Carlton is selling this stuff, Yolanda Adams is the first place she introduced that song. I remember because the girl couldn't play for nothing. I started to go play for her. What was the song she was singing? Uh, through the storm, I think. I forget. Through the storm, yeah. The girl couldn't even play it for nothing. If you watch the video, you hear what I'm talking about. The girl didn't even know it. Whoever she bought to play for didn't even know the song. And she's doing that song, and the Winans came, the Clark sisters came, and they singing Myrna Summers song. Just a lot of singing and stuff going on. These people weren't on program. A lot of them was on program. However, So as we get to about 3, I noticed some things that changed. And I noticed when they had, I think the last one was the fourth one didn't come together. And finally, it took a lot of digging, but during that time, I was able to find out because I knew some people at Bishop Pearson's church. You'll also, that's where you would have met Clarence McClendon. A lot of people don't know. I believe Clarence McClendon was Bishop Carlton Pearson's assistant pastor at that time. Well, I knew Daryl Coley long before that. Um, just since you brought up Daryl Coley, I'm going to go here, Danielle. You'd be surprised that Daryl Coley, if you go back to Tremaine Hawkins' album, Holy One, and you hear that guy that's singing in the background at the very end of the song, that's Daryl Coley. But I knew Daryl Coley before that because a guy by the name of Michael Harris, he's the first person to sing the song that made Daryl Coley famous, Nobody But Jesus. Michael Harris and James Cleveland was trying to find somebody to replace that voice that Michael Harris had. He died. And they thought that was going to be Daryl Coley, but it wasn't. But if you listen to Daryl Coley sing, you go back and listen to Michael Harris, you'll see that Daryl Coley is just a copycat of Michael Harris, who used to sing with the Southern California Community Choir. Now, I'm really taking y'all back. You got to really be in church. For y'all that ain't in church, you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But James Cleveland had a singer in the Southern California Community Choir. His name is Michael Harris, and that boy could sing. And he had that high-pitched voice, all those runs, and he was the first person to do, I think, Nobody But Jesus, like Daryl Coley did. But he passed. And he passed or something happened. I don't know what happened. Maybe he passed or still, I don't know. But next thing I heard, Daryl Coley, I thought it was Michael Harris, but it was Daryl Coley. He was singing with the Hawkins. He was up north singing with the Hawkins in Northern California. And he kind of branched out of that bunch of people up there with the Hawkins family. But however, my point being, again, what happened was the more TBN began to sell, the more of these people begin to file lawsuits against Carlton Pearson. That's correct. Everybody who sang, everybody who preached almost, this is all alleged, I don't know which ones it was, that's why I'm not calling their names, all sued Carlton. They tried to sue TBN, but TBN said Carlton put it on, and so they wind up suing Bishop Pearson. So the same people that Bishop Pearson brought up, introduced you to, are some of the same people that caused his downfall. They sued this man with lawsuits claiming copyright infringement. Now, you won't believe me, but take a listen to this if you go to church. If you go to church and y'all gonna have a famous person in your church, ask your pastor if I'm lying. That person has in their contract that they got to get 20 to 30% of all DVDs, all cassette tapes, all videos sold of them. And they want an accounting. And if you don't give it to them, they will sue your church if you play them preaching at your church. Now, the reason why that's in the contract is because of Bishop Carlton Pearson, because all of this happened in Bishop Carlton Pearson. And the lawsuits just came in from everywhere, everywhere. And it got to the point to where he lost his church, lost his house, lost everything he had. And this is before he even got to the doctrine of inclusion, okay? I want y'all to hear this. He didn't even start talking about the doctrine of inclusion. He was still holding on and thinking that the people that he helped was going to turn around and help him, but none of them did. They all shunned him. Now, keep in mind, he ain't said nothing about hell. He ain't said nothing about the Bible. He's looking out for the people, the Negro people that wouldn't have never spoken a white or Roberts University, that he opened the door for them to come and help him in this battle with all of these people who sued him for copyright infringement. And guess what? None of them did. And once one person won, there were other people who came and sued him as well for copyright infringement. It got to the point where TBN had to stop playing Azusa Street meetings because they were being sued. Anybody who was singing sued for copyright infringement. This is what led to Bishop Carlton Pearson's downfall. So while Carlton Pearson then had these wonderful crusades and he's drowning in debt, drowning in it, swimming so deep in debt that they ain't even got a submarine that can go down and get him. All of the people he put up now are on their way to becoming multimillionaires, and none of them turn around and help him. So he's just sitting there. He lost the church in Jinx, beautiful church, lost his house. All these people he introduced to his wife, Gina, and told these people that, told his wife, these are my best friends. We grew up in ministry. They all disappeared. They all left him. That is what put a wounded spirit inside Carlton Pearson. That's what happened to him. He got a wounded spirit. And when you get a wounded spirit, that's when the devil comes along. His spirit is wounded. He's hurt. And not only is Carlton Pearson hurt, let me just say this too, because I'm not going to be on here long. Carlton Pearson has a church hurt. And if you ain't never been hurt before in your life until you have a church hurt, when you get a church hurt, there ain't nothing greater than a church hurt. If your mother and father forsake you, Jesus said he would take you up. Sometimes your mother and father can forsake you, and the church can too. So it seems like even God is forsaking you. And that's what happened to Carlton Pearson. Now, when that happened to Carlton Pearson, he's drowning in debt, broke, busted, can't be trusted, disgusted. None of the people, listen to what I'm saying now, think of these people who came out of there. None of these people came to help this man who didn't even really know what he was doing was wrong. And he lost everything. Now, in the course of losing everything, now keep in mind, don't start telling me about no doctrine of inclusion, because Carlton Pearson is not the only person to preach the doctrine of inclusion, okay? That's been preached forever. He'll always be known in our time for it, but he did not invent the doctrine of inclusion. That's a lie. That's been around forever. It's no different than once saved, always saved. Simply mean that you just remove hell from the Bible. You can do anything you want to do except Jesus, and you're still gonna go to heaven. That's what all that means. So you have once saved, always saved. He come up with the doctrine of inclusion. But the doctrine of inclusion is a little different because it was invented by other clergy to include homosexuals. That's right. That's why a lot of people look cockeyed at Carlton Pearson. All right. You can see here, counseling, not that particular, but let's go back here. I think it's right here. There's a doctrine. There's some other people who had the doctrine of inclusion as well, too. You can see it here. The gospel of inclusion and stuff like that. He wasn't the founder of the gospel of inclusion. I cut some of it off, but you can see that this one of these particular books was designed strictly to include the LBGT community, the lesbian, gay, and transgender community. All right. So I'm not even talking about the doctrine of inclusion. What I'm talking about happened to Carlton Pearson with all these lawsuits for copyright infringement because this person preached, this person sang, this person preached, this person sang, caused this man to go broke. Listen to what I'm saying, A. Hill. Try and follow me. I hear what you're saying. All right. I'm trying to show you something else, something that people don't tell you. They sued the crap out of this guy. All them singers that showed up, all those preachers that showed up, they all sued this guy. And this is how he wound up losing everything. It was not because he preached to gay people. That's a lie. It was because he let certain folk come in, preach, he played them on TVN, and they sued him for copyright infringement, and it drove this man to financial ruin. Now, while he in financial ruin in Jinx, Oklahoma, where don't nobody even care about going, let alone because of the name, in Jinx, Oklahoma, my point is a group of people out in, I think, San Francisco. Now, the church that reached out to him is pastored by Yvette Flounder. Now, Yvette Flounder is the woman who sings Thank You, Lord. And she also believes that gays and lesbians are going to heaven. That's just her belief. Some people say she's a lesbian herself, but she has over 5 or 10,000 members in her church. The lady who sings Thank You, Lord. I think her name is Bishop Yvette Flounder. I think Pastor Bishop Yvette Flounder. All of the names in the world. I'm not really sure. They reached out to him. Nobody else did. This is something for you to think about. So while our brother is laying in a pool of debt because he invited Ghetto into a place where Ghetto could get more, while he there, invited all these people, put them all on TV, and introduced this thing. They all sued him for copyright infringement. He's sinking faster than unlocked wheels of time. And the people he helped up did not reach out to get him at all, period. Didn't even care. He had not said one thing about hell or the doctrine of inclusion. He was just a Pentecostal preacher who had a Pentecostal service, and people went up, and he got hit with all of these lawsuits and started to going down and wound up losing his church and everything he had. And while he laying there, he's forgot about, because now some of these same clowns are going on and have their own services and trying to duplicate what he did. And nobody cared. Our church reached out to him from San Francisco. I don't know the name of Pastor Yvette Flounder's church, but they reached out to him, brought him out there, took care of him, foot washed him, and treated him like he was a human being. And they just happened to be mostly gay and mostly lesbian. Now, I hope y'all can hear what I'm saying. Those who have ears to hear, let them hear what the Spirit got to say. But before you ridicule those gay and those lesbian people for helping a man who preached on them and preached them into hell, I've known Carlton a long time. Carlton preached more of them in hell than anybody. But yet, when he was down and when he was out, the saints turned their back on him. Yes, they did. They did. I promise you they did. We wouldn't even know who the hell Paul Morton is without Carlton Pearson. I never heard of him anyway. First time I heard him was at Carlton Pearson's church. That's why I heard Bishop Paul Morton at. And he sprung from there. That's why I heard Paul Morton. But yet and still, when Paul Morton was, when Carlton Pearson was singing, I don't see any of these people that he put up on that stage in front of not just black people, but all those white people, all those Latino people who would have never heard them sing. I never heard him testify. I never seen anybody reach back to try and help him, but he was drowning in debt, copyright suits everywhere, period, because he played these people on TVN. They wanted money from him. And the brother was just laying there, didn't know what to do at all, period. And nobody cared. And a church in San Francisco sent God for him and doctored him and took care of him. And just so happens, a lot of the members were not only gay and lesbian, a lot of them were dying with AIDS. And he watched them push back everything they were going through to treat him. And in my own personal opinion, I think this was a revelation to him. This was a serious revelation to him. That the very people that because if you know anything about the Church of God in Christ, no other religion other than Church of God in Christ was hard on homosexuality and lesbianism like the Church of God in Christ was. That's why they're so filled with it right now. I'm gonna leave that alone. But anyway, my point is, I'm sure he must have been shocked that they reached out and they were the only ones to give him comfort. They were the only ones to comfort this man. Yet he didn't put them on stage. He didn't put them before or Roberts. He didn't put them before. He didn't do anything. They just enjoyed whatever they saw on TBN, and they heard he was down, and they sent for him and his family and took care of him. And he left there wondering, how could people be so nice and God put them in hell? But I'm not going to go into all of that kind of stuff right now. What I want to go into, though, is how bad the church did this, brother. And then they want to act like they had nothing to do with it. It is an eye-opening experience. That's why you got to be careful who you put down. My mother always told me, be careful how you treat people while you're going up, because you never know who you're going to meet when you come down. Because what goes up got to come down. And when he was coming down, the people he put up was not there to meet him. But the people he put down, they braced his fall and tried to stop him from falling. Yeah, old Roberts was his mentor. We already said that. Come on back, A Hill, and listen to the beginning. And so to me, there are really important lessons to be learned from Carlton Pearson. I don't care if you never listen to the doctrine of inclusion. He called it inclusion, but it's the same thing as once saved, always saved. And you got people who preach that. They want you to believe once you get saved, you always saved. You come in on crack, you leave out on crack, you still saved. You come in a whore, you leave out a whore. You come in a drunk, you leave out a drunk. They teach this. They don't even care now. You got one ignorant fool passing herpes around throughout the Christian kingdom, telling people that they can't even sin, and people are stupid enough to listen to him. If you couldn't even sin, you wouldn't even need the blood. But to show you how ignorant we are because we don't go to school and don't learn, we listen to all these little bastards, all these antichrist preachers preaching, and they teaching lies. They teaching lies. And so Bishop Pearson, when he was doing this Azusa, looked for a lot of the people he put up to help. And that's why I say, if you're going to take something from Bishop Pearson's life, what I take from it is I am going to be careful where I spend my time and who it is that I want to pick up and put up. Because you got to be careful how you treat people on your way up, because you don't know how it's going to be when you're on your way back down. And I don't care. Whatever goes up, the law of physics does not change. You got to come down. And how you treat people while you were going up there, it's going to tell a lot when you start coming down. And so the people that Bishop Pearson put up and tried to send to the top, he sent them past him. When he was in his most dire need, they were not there. And the people that he put down and the people that he preached on and preached about, they were there to pick him up in love. So the man suffered from what I believe is a wounded spirit. I can only hope that he got it right with God. In the end, I don't know, I'm not God. Him and God made peace, or he made peace with God, made peace with Jesus. But however, he's made his transition home. And I just wanted to show you share with you some of my personal experience with Bishop Pearson. And y'all be careful who you put up. Be careful and think about it twice. And if anything, stick with your invited program. If somebody's invited, I know at my church, if you're invited, you get to be where you're supposed to be. If you're uninvited, you can sit in the audience with everybody else. Maybe if he did that, maybe he wouldn't have to go through some of the things that he went through. Nevertheless, to all my subs and followers, one nation.
That's what we see Jay-Z has done. That's what we see Puff has done. The music don't become how you pay the bills. It's a lot of pressure off of it. You got other things bringing in income. You can make music.
This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face. Like, what the fuck is going on? Who told you that song, and did you know all along? And why did your bitch sell that painting 2 weeks after he was gone? I'm gonna tell you what it feels like. It feels a little fishy. Feels like something's going on ever since that John Legend song and Khaled's prediction of a Grammy. If you ask me, I can't stand him. Seems a little weird. Question number one, why is there no blood? Question number two, Sam left in the AM is true, but you're talking about the shits all up in the afternoon. Don't trip, we're gonna find out the truth soon. Who did what to who? Did they plan to eat the chili fries, or was it just a surprise? Can you see the lies of witness in a cowboy's eyes? Are we gonna just sit here and forget? Are we gonna ride like Nip said? It's a little weird that the judge quit, handing out immunities like candy makes me sick. I got a lot of unanswered questions like, why's the footage all grit and I can't see shit? Who the fuck is that white man in that white BMW? Probably was the FBI. Yeah, I noticed that white guy, and I noticed the car wasn't in the pictures when they showed them afterwards. They thought we would forget, they got that shit backwards. They weren't expecting me to drop this track and raise all these questions with my Mac words. I'm really mobbing through LA smoking backwoods. I've been doing this shit all my life. TMC, AMI. You might just see an empty parking lot when you ride by. Well, me, I see way more. I see an independently owned store. I see the community taking power back, whether you're white, Mexican, Asian, or black. As long as you're not blue. Good ones, there might be a few, but from my life experience, I'm like, fuck that. I'm not defending Eric, but what's the fucking delay? They requested a quick trial, it's been over 800 days. They try to distract us in so many clever, creative ways. Yeah, you got your Grammy, and now you're a billionaire. But what about the families that are still living there? Seems a little unfair, just a little something to compare. I never seen a fireman wearing a bulletproof vest. Yes, the shit to me seems a little suspect. The shit's a little weird. Crisis actors taking away our fathers, making our child some bastards, killing creative men and women for their masters. The waves that Nip rode in, you didn't know it began. A bunch of new chapters. You didn't think about what would happen after. We would put the pieces together on your transparent bullshit. I can see right through it, like the clear blue sky in the LA sunny weather, where the palm trees swing side to side and we ride together on a white horse or a double R hearse in a foreign car. Either way, you gotta be on guard, because they're on tap for anyone who's brown or black with tats. Everybody sees it, but nobody wants to attack. It's sad if you ask, we all gotta blast back. We're in the game, though we can't touch the ball. Seems a little unfair if you ask me, that's all. So take your ignorant ass to YouTube and type in Tanique Reviews to get the real news. We're doing the shit for justice, not views. Sharing knowledge and coming together, that's the real tool. He tried to lead us to the lake, so don't sleep on the knowledge that he gave to me and you. He wanted us to learn from his mistakes, so with our new knowledge, good decisions we could make. And also one thing I wanted to say myself, they killed Dr. Sebi because he was teaching health. Assassins, they come in all shapes and sizes, big booties, hips and thighs. Oh, you're Diddy's girl, right? Oh yeah, John Legend, some things happen at your video shoot. I got a couple questions for you. All those strings you pulled, you still can't make a rap hit. You punk ass little bitch, you probably got a little dick. All the shit that you have to did. This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face. This new song with Nip and Jay, what the fuck, I got something to say. What a slap in the fucking face.